Okay, so what we have here is I have some existing track, and I've decided that I want to put a turnout in. And this is an Atlas number 8 turnout. I'm using code 83 track. And so what I'm going to show you how to do is to remove a section of existing track and add a turnout. So this is what I use to glue the track down to the cork. And it's actually pretty decent because it's pretty easy to remove. Here I have some feeder wires, so I want to come this way far enough that I don't really interrupt the feeder wires. And then in this side I have a curve. It curves off here. If you're looking this way, it curves off to the right. And I don't want to disrupt the curve. So here, this kind of a straight section. It's straight for about here, and then I have about this for the feeder wires. So this looks like a good place to do the installation. So flat side facing the track I'm going to keep. And I usually like to line it up right to a tie. So here's the tie. I'm going to cut right in front of the tie because the spacing before the tie gives me room for the nippers on that side. And now I've done it. So I'll line that up and figure out where I need to cut over here. And conveniently, it looks like it's right before a tie. Now, it's okay to undercut to make it too short because you can always trim a little bit later, but if you overcut really by any significant amount, it's kind of a nuisance to put that together. So let's hope I have the right tie. I better double check that one more time. There, and it's this tie. So it looks like if I cut right after this tie, I'm going to be good. Now, I use my putty knife. I just kind of stick it under here, and you'll see that comes up really nicely. I've removed entire sections of flex track with this and been able to reuse the flex track. So you can see this is still flexible. It's actually reusable. Just the ends there are not very good. But that comes up really nice. So now I got to do a little removal here. I want to remove as little as possible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this file. So this is a triangular file. And I want to remove 2 ties on this side. Now you look at on the turnout, I've already cut out down where those sort of U-shaped ties are that Atlas puts on for the the less professional looking stuff. So which side is this on? It's on this side. All right. So this is kind of nice because you use this point, and I can, without lifting up the track very much, I can file under that. This was already loose, so I'm not sure exactly why that one just popped right off. Well, I picked a good one. So let's go over to this side. Yeah, this one's still attached. I'm going to pry this up right up to the feeder line. See if I can do this. So this one is, I happen to pick one that's attached on both sides. So what I'm going to do is file up from the bottom using the corner. And what's nice here is I can do this without really lifting up very much of the track at all. So I don't have to pull a lot off. Well, all right, so I already messed up. I want to remove 2 ties. I was looking at 1. So if I go back 2 ties, the flex track here is only connected on one side, and it's this side here. So I only have to file away 1. I think I got it. Pull off 2. There we go. So there, pulled off a double. And let's see how I did fit-wise. So that goes there. And I undershot it a little bit, which is fine. Remember, using the flat side to the track, I'm going to keep. Just nipping off a little bit there. Now that is almost there. So I'm going to take my file, I'm going to file down these ends. Just make sure there's none. So over here, this rail is just a little tiny bit too long, and this one's about a ½ millimeter too long. So I think I'd file this one. And this one I probably need to cut just a little tiny bit. I want it flying somewhere across the room. Get these burrs. Now that's pretty good. There's a little bit of a gap, which always helps for some temperature expansion or anything like that that happens. But other than that, this looks pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some joiners. I'm going to do a test fit. So of course we have a curve here, so everything's kind of weird. You know, when you adjust the different radius of the curve on the flex track, it will lengthen or shorten one rail or the other. So you just have to watch for that when you're dealing with curves on this stuff. So here I want to have enough room that I can push the joiner all the way in and kind of flex that up. Push the joiner back and join the rails. And then when I put the right amount of curve in here, it came out a little short actually. I think it'll be all right though. Yeah, it actually came out shorter than I would have liked, but I think it'll be fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start soldering. What I'm going to do is I'm going to solder this side, then glue everything down, and then solder this side. See how my cables are there. So time to set up the soldering. So I went and got this big blowtorch of soldering iron. And the regular one I was using, the normal ones you find anywhere, they were taking like 2 to 5 minutes to heat up a rail that you could solder a joiner onto. And I finally found this one, and it seems to take about 30 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. So it's much better. So what I do, and I kind of like to solder before I kind of glue the track in on a lot of situations. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, but what I do is I take the tip, put it on the inside. You always want to put your solder on the outside rail. So the tip goes on the inside. This one needs some cleaning. So I have this cleaning stuff. Just go in there, get that tip clean. So now back to this. So the solder on the inside rail, or the iron on the inside rail, solder on the outside rail. So you're not going to be able to see this one. Well, that was a sloppy one, so that's unfortunate. So now to maintain the bend, conveniently there's this kind of overhang, and I can clamp the track in. where I want it. And I can bring this back to where it's going to be. So there's no glue yet. I'm clamping this down so I get the right tension on the rails, so that the joint is where it's going to be when it's final. Heat on the inside, solder on the outside. Just make sure it cooks and flows all the way in. So I'm kind of thinking I'm not going to solder this side. I don't know yet. There's some gap there, which might be useful for some heat expansion. So we'll see what happens. All right, so the next thing is glue everything down. So I got my caulk here, and I don't want to glue where these are. When I do, I think I'm going to try and. That's pretty tight down there. I don't think I can get any glue under that. So let's put a little bead here, as far down as I can go. Take the spreader. Now, if I couldn't clamp it, if I was in a position where I couldn't clamp it, I usually use weights like 1, 2, 3 blocks to hold this down when it's set. Now, those gaps are almost a millimeter. That's a lot of gap, I think. Let's see if I can manipulate this curve and shorten up the gap a little bit. A little bit. So like kind of by tightening in the curve, that gap closes. Now it's about a 1/2 millimeter. I'm pretty comfortable with that gap. So I'm going to leave it this way. I think that's still a good transition on to the straight that's over there. Yeah, that was a pretty sloppy soldering job. But so the only remaining task, unless I'm going to solder that, the only remaining task is to put some filler ties in on those 2 gaps. So that's it. That's how you go and cut out a section of track and put in a turnout. Hope that was helpful for you.